It's Monday, January 3rd, 2011. I'm Kevin McShann, and this is the McShann Sports Beat Report.
The NFL's regular season, of course, concluded yesterday. That means 20 teams did not make the playoffs. We expected some changes on this Monday. Change one has already happened. We got word that the Cleveland Browns have now fired their head coach, Eric Mangini, after 2 years at the helm there. Browns yesterday played Pittsburgh Steelers at home in a game many expected to be close. The Steelers, though, blew out the Browns 41-9. That capped a 5-11 season for the Browns that did include wins over the Patriots and the Saints, but also included 4 straight losses to end the season. Reportedly, Mike Holmgren met with Eric Mangini this morning before deciding to cut ties. Mangini, who went 10-22 in his 2 seasons at Cleveland. Prior to being with the Browns, of course, Eric Mangini was the head coach of the New York Jets for 3 seasons, taking them to the playoffs in one of those seasons. Here is the statement released by Mike Holmgren, the Browns president. This decision was not easy for me, and it was one into which I put a great deal of thought. Although we have made improvements this season, my responsibility is to ensure that we establish a program that will allow this team to compete at a championship level. That will continue to be our goal in everything we do. I want to thank Eric for all of his contributions to the Cleveland Browns and wish him and his family the best of luck in the future. Jason LaCanfora, our insider, joins us now live. Jason, Mangini had 2 more years left on his contract, but I take it this comes as no surprise to you.
No surprise. It would have really been unfathomable for them to keep him, just given where that organization is. They almost made a move a year ago, decided to focus on the football operations side of the building, with Mike Holmgren just becoming team president then. They give Eric Mangini, yes, it had multiple years left on the contract, but this was a 1-year re-audition for his job. A year ago, big wins over Pittsburgh. They finished one of the hottest teams in the league. That saved him last year. Really, at Thanksgiving, Eric Mangini had this team in pretty good shape. They had put together some big wins. But even then, I spoke to someone very close to the situation and said, how do you think this plays out? And his words were, talk to me after Christmas, because they had a part of their schedule there where if they couldn't beat teams like a Buffalo, like a Cincinnati, then all of a sudden the tide would turn. And that's exactly what happened. Bad losses towards the end, non-competitive at times. And they really didn't get anything done from the quarterback position. Colt McCoy had his moments, but really they're going to need someone to come in there, whether it's a head coach or a coordinator, and recultivate that offensive side of the ball to get it aligned with some of the West Coast philosophies that Holmgren has, to figure out if it's not Colt McCoy, then who is the quarterback of the future there, and begin to do those sort of things. I think we'll see sweeping changes to the coaching side there. 2 names really at the top of the list, John Gruden or John Fox. I can't really see anyone either than them getting this job. Then it's a matter of who they bring with them. As of right now, I think John Fox and Mike McCoy, Denver's offensive coordinator, most likely to land there and take over. Fox's head coach, McCoy as coordinator.
Now, Jason, you hear rumors occasionally that Mike Holmgren, after a year or so of decompression, might have the itch to get back into coaching on the sidelines. Is there any chance in your mind that Holmgren himself takes over that spot?
It's an interesting notion, but I've talked to people close to him throughout the season who say it's just not going to be the case. What could be interesting about a younger coordinator like McCoy coming in to run offense, though, is that Holmgren could sort of exercise his coaching Jones a little bit there through the offensive side of the ball, share some philosophies to someone who comes down through his family tree. So that could kind of allow him to be a part of game planning, things like that, if he wants to be. But to be a head coach, to carry that burden of responsibility day in, day out, at this stage of his life, at this stage of his career, with the commitment he's made to trying to resurrect the Browns franchise, and that goes beyond coaching. That's scouting. That's personnel. That's business operations. That whole umbrella, to do that for owner Randy Lerner, that's his focus right now. So I don't see Holmgren getting back into coaching in any type of full-term scale. Absolutely. No.
If you try to fit a square peg into a round hole, it simply doesn't work. And for the Cleveland Browns and head coach Eric Mangini, despite the best efforts of all parties involved, this was a marriage that simply wasn't going to have a harmonious ending. And on Monday, team president Mike Holmgren took Mangini out of his misery, ending his 2-year stint with the team after 2 consecutive 5-11 seasons. Team president Mike Holmgren met with reporters on Monday to discuss his decision to fire Mangini, whether or not he would consider a return stint on the sidelines, and what's next for the Cleveland Browns.
As you know, we are going to make a change with the head coach. I had a chance to meet with Eric this morning, and we had a very good but tough conversation. You know, it's difficult, to say the least, but I want to thank him publicly, he and his family, for everything they've done as far as the football organization is concerned, and also the community. They're wonderful people, and I wish him nothing but the best. Our conversation, I think we were very, very honest with one another. We have established a good relationship, and that's what made it even more difficult. We will begin a search for a new coach immediately. We started the ball rolling a little bit today already. I'm not locking myself into any timetable for this. My goal is to find exactly the right person for the job of head coach of the Cleveland Browns, and who can eventually someday lead us to the championship, and that's my only goal. With that, I'll take questions.
That guy, is there any chance you'll be coaching this team next year?
Well, you know, I was hired to be the president of the Cleveland Browns, and I think this year I've grown into the job. I think learned a lot about a lot of things that I hadn't paid much attention to before. Having said that, I am also a coach. I'll always be a coach. Heck, the people in the building call me coach. So to tell you right now that I would never coach again, whether it's here or any place, I probably wouldn't be honest. You know that, I know that. But as of right now, I am the president of the Cleveland Browns, and my job is to find the best coach available, the right coach available for this job. And that's what I'm trying to do. And that does not include me right now. But heck, to say I'll never coach again, I probably won't coach again. But I don't want to lie to you ever. I've never done it, and I'm not going to start now.
Mike, is there a race to get, say, John Fox or John Gruden with other openings coming?
Well, those two fellows I know very, very well. They're outstanding football coaches. It seems as though there are going to be a number of changes in the league. So I would suspect that those two guys will be candidates on a lot of people's lists. As far as how we're handling this, what I'd ask you to do is we're not going to announce people before they come in here. After I have interviewed the possible candidate, at that point I will follow up with you, let you know who came in, those types of things, and that's how we're going to handle it. So I'm not prepared today to give you a bunch of names and things like that. But you will, you won't be kept in the dark on this. It's just, I think, in fairness to the people we're talking to and other candidates, perhaps I'd like to handle it that way.
You're looking for the best man for the job and the right man for the job. Why wouldn't you include yourself?
It's just at this stage of my life, that's not what my first priority is. It really isn't. I'm relishing the role that Randy Lerner had confidence to give me. I would like to continue getting better, continue to help guide the organization, and get us to where we want to get from that position. So I'm going to approach this a certain way. And, I think I'm a pretty good coach, but there are a lot of good coaches. There are a lot of young coaches. I'm actually anxious to talk to a few of them and just see how it goes, what the field's like. I can get real excited about finding a young guy and having him take the ball and go with it. I was in the bright light a long time. And I enjoyed it tremendously, but right now my direction is going in a different way.
That Eric would no longer be the coach?
Probably this morning. I've said all along, and I tried to be true to what I've told you and certainly what I told Eric all along, is that the season, I would make any decision I had to make. Once the season was concluded, let the dust settle. Let me think about it. That's how I make decisions. That's how I made the decision to keep Eric, and then come to some sort of conclusion. I didn't sleep very well last night, so I was up a fair amount of the night thinking about this, thinking what I might have to do, and then finally trying to make the correct decision. Look, it is difficult. I've never had to do this before. I like the man a lot. He is a hardworking, bright, caring guy. But unfortunately, this business at times, and even though it wasn't the only factor, I want to win here. We want to win here in Cleveland, and we did not win enough games this year.
Could you do both jobs, president and coach?
I'd rather not dwell with the hypothetical right now. My focus is in another way. If I have to answer that question, I'll probably have to answer it way down the road, but not right now.
Search to just NFL coaches with NFL experience.
No, Tom, we've compiled lists of, I guess, columns, if you will, coaches that fit into certain categories, and college coaches are certainly one of the categories.
Taking yourself out of this search completely?
At the present time, yes.
Some frustrated Browns fans expressed their opinion on the state of the team following the club's loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers on Sunday. And once news broke of Mangini's firing on Monday, some of his more prominent players discussed the season that was, their disappointment, and their personal performances, and regret that they didn't do enough to keep their coach around.
I just don't want to start over again. I mean, the Indians, the Cavs, no, enough's enough. Give the man a chance again. Let's see what happens.
How could he keep him? He's lost all these games. He won a couple games he shouldn't have won. But I mean, is that enough? If we can't get Gruden or Holmgren, then let's just stay with Mangini.
Really?
Continuity.
You guys need to get a new coach, though. I mean, if I was a Browns fan, I'd probably say, I don't know if Cowher would want to go there. He does have the ties for, he used to play there. That'd be a good pick.
You got to believe in Mike Holmgren more. He got more experience in doing what he do. So when it's all said and done, he got the second final word next to Lerner. But what his word is going to be, thank you for your time. Here's your check.
When I came to my free agency visit, and I think I shared some of this with you, I hadn't heard a whole lot of good things about him. And I was honest with Coach Mangini about that. And I said, this is kind of the perception. Can you explain some of those things? And I wasn't going to come in with any prejudgment because I had never met the man before. All the things I had heard beforehand were not true at all. I have nothing but respect for him. He treats his players with respect. And I know that he cares about us because after every single win and tough loss, he dresses the same way. Like men, he treats us that way. And I appreciate that.
I respect the heck out of Coach Mangini, and I really do. Coach Dayball, I do. Those guys have been wonderful to me. I think they're great men, and I wish nothing but the best for them. And I just hope and pray now that our organization we're making changes for the better.
People will then paint themselves the victim and say that, well, it's because of this, because of that. Well, no, look in the mirror. I mean, did you do enough? I mean, did we do enough? I mean, that's ultimately the whole thing. I mean, coaches coach and players play.
At the end of the day, Mike Holmgren is charged with one mission as president of the Cleveland Browns: win as many games as possible. And upon further review, after reviewing 2 years' worth of evidence, Holmgren ultimately decided that enough was enough, that the personality and philosophy clash was going to be too big of an obstacle for the two men to coexist. So regardless of his popularity within the locker room or in the community, Holmgren had to make a tough call. And now the Browns are afforded the opportunity to get out from under a bad situation and try to rectify it to ensure a more positive outcome in the future. As for Mangini, he's a solid defensive coach, but after 2 failed attempts as a head coach, both in Cleveland and with the New York Jets, maybe it's time for him to take a step back and reassess his situation, because this is a bottom line business, and simply put, he simply didn't get the job done. Kevin McShann, Sports Beat, reports.